If I told you to look at two people, one making $160,000 a year and the other making $62,000 a year, and asked you to point to the wealthy one, you wouldn't even hesitate. You would point to the six-figure salary. Society has trained us to believe that wealth is simply a math equation based on your gross income. But society is lying to you. Income is not wealth. Income is just the speed at which water flows into a bucket. But if the bucket has massive holes at the bottom, it doesn't matter how fast the water is flowing. You will still die of thirst. Today, we are going to look at the psychological trap that is keeping high earners completely broke. We are going to expose the invisible shadow cost of everything you own. And we are going to break down the 10 minimalist money rules that guarantee financial freedom, no matter what your salary is. This is the story of two architects. Let's call them Julian and Elena. Julian and Elena graduated from the exact same university with the exact same degree and began their careers in the exact same bustling metropolis. Julian was the golden boy. He landed a prestigious role at a top-tier firm, quickly climbing the ranks to earn a massive $160,000 a year. Elena took a different path. She joined a community-focused nonprofit architecture group, earning a modest $62,000. On paper, Julian was the ultimate success story. He had won the game. Yet 10 years later, their lives told a completely different tale of what it actually means to be wealthy. Julian lived in a sprawling downtown loft. To any visitor, his home was a museum of success. He sat on a $6,000 Italian leather sofa, cooked in a kitchen featuring every high-end gadget imaginable, and walked into a closet that resembled a luxury boutique. But Julian lived with a constant, quiet, suffocating hum of anxiety. Despite making $160,000 a year, he was exactly 2 missed paychecks away from a total financial crisis. Every single dollar he earned was already spoken for by the life he had built. His massive income was entirely consumed by the required maintenance of his ego. He was a prisoner in a very expensive cage. Elena lived in a sun-drenched, modest one-bedroom apartment. Her space felt open, airy, and peaceful because it contained only the things she truly used. While Julian's bank account was a chaotic revolving door of money coming in and instantly flying out, Elena moved through the world with a deep, calm confidence. Despite earning less than half of Julian's salary, she had 18 months of living expenses saved in cash, and she effortlessly invested 20% of her income every single month. She had discovered the fundamental secret that Julian had missed. Income isn't wealth. Margin is wealth. One evening, Julian and Elena met for coffee. Julian was exhausted, complaining about his financial stress. He was complaining about the cost of a storage unit for his winter gear, the expensive maintenance on his luxury espresso machine, and the rising insurance on his sports car. Elena looked at him and shared the philosophy that guided her entire life. "Julian," she said, "everything you own costs money twice. We all understand the first cost. The first cost is the receipt. It's the price tag at the store. But the second cost, what behavioral economists call the shadow cost, is completely invisible, and it is usually much larger." Elena pointed out Julian's unused $15,000 home gym setup. To Julian, he had spent $15,000 once, but Elena showed him the brutal math of the shadow cost. That gym wasn't just $15,000 lost. It was costing him $1,000 a year in implicit rent for the square footage it permanently occupied in his expensive downtown loft.
It cost him mental bandwidth every time he looked at it and felt guilty for not using it. It cost him time to clean around it. But the most devastating shadow cost of all? The opportunity cost. If Julian had taken that $15,000 and put it into a basic S&P 500 index fund, over 15 years, it would have compounded into over $50,000. That unused gym equipment didn't cost him $15,000. It cost him $50,000 and a piece of his sanity. "Your stuff is literally stressing you out," Elena told him. And this isn't just a minimalist theory. A famous study by UCLA's Center on Everyday Lives of Families proved that physical clutter is directly linked to increased levels of cortisol, the human stress hormone. The more objects you have to manage, insure, clean, and protect, the higher your baseline anxiety becomes. You do not own your possessions. Eventually, your possessions own you.
To help Julian escape his high-income prison, Elena shared the 10 laws of the margin. This is the invisible behavioral framework that allowed her to be infinitely richer than him on a fraction of the salary. If you want to stop the cycle of lifestyle inflation, you need to write these down. Rule number 1, the cost per use filter. Elena never looked at a price tag in isolation. Your brain is terrible at judging absolute value, so you have to give it a formula. Before buying a $300 kitchen gadget, she asked herself if she would use it more than twice a year. If she only used it twice, that gadget cost an obscenely expensive $150 per use. It was a terrible investment. Conversely, she bought a premium $2,000 mattress. Why? Because she used it every single night for a decade. The math comes out to roughly 55 cents per use. For the incredible value it provided to her health and sleep, 55 cents is a spectacular deal. This simple math cuts straight through the marketing fog and destroys the social pressure to buy useless luxury items. Rule number 2, the replacement test. Humans suffer from a psychological glitch called the endowment effect. We overvalue things simply because we already own them. We keep things we don't need just because we have them. Elena challenged Julian to walk through his massive loft, point to every object, and ask one brutal question. If this vanished today, would I go out and spend my hard-earned money to buy it again? Julian realized that his bread maker, his 3 sets of fine china, and 40% of his designer wardrobe were only there because of inertia. He didn't actually want them anymore. They were negative value items, stealing his physical space and mental energy. Rule number 3, the boredom barrier. Julian constantly bought the newest iPhone or leased a new car simply because he was bored or because a slightly newer model existed. He was addicted to the dopamine hit of the checkout line. Elena's rule was strict: never upgrade out of boredom. An item remains perfectly functional until it genuinely fails to serve its core purpose. A phone's job is communication. A car's job is transportation. The trap of upgrade culture and planned obsolescence can easily cost a middle-class worker over $200,000 in a lifetime. That is $250,000 burned just to have a slightly better camera on a phone you use to scroll social media. Rule number 4, engineering the path. Elena was honest with herself. She knew human willpower is a myth. You cannot out-willpower a billion-dollar marketing industry designed to make you spend. So she didn't rely on willpower, she relied on friction. She engineered her environment. She deleted all shopping apps from her phone. She permanently removed her saved credit card information from her browser. And most importantly, she enforced a strict 24-hour waiting rule on all non-essential purchases. If she wanted something, she had to wait a full day. This single habit eliminates 70% of impulse buys because it allows the emotional, impulsive part of your brain to cool down and the logical part to wake up. Rule number 5, the inventory scroll. Elena kept a strict mental count of her physical possessions. For example, she knew she owned exactly 30 shirts. Why does this matter? Because when you know the exact count, buying the 31st shirt feels completely absurd rather than rewarding. It forces a natural one-in, one-out policy. If you want a new jacket, you have to donate an old one. This physical boundary creates a hard limit that makes lifestyle creep mathematically impossible. Rule number 6. Avoiding the museum of past enthusiasm. Julian's garage was a graveyard of expensive hobbies. He had a $2,000 kayak he used twice, and a $3,000 photography setup, gathering dust. Julian suffered from aspirational spending. He was buying dear for the person he wished he was, not the person he actually was. Elena's rule was bulletproof. Always rent or borrow first. Before committing to ownership, she tested every new interest. She refused to let her home become a museum of past enthusiasm, entirely eliminating the sunk cost fallacy that traps so many people. Rule number 7, the lifestyle multiplier. This is also known as the Diderot effect, the concept that obtaining a new possession often creates a spiral of consumption that leads you to acquire even more things. Elena understood that a big purchase is never just one purchase. Julian bought a boat, but the boat required a trailer. The trailer required a bigger truck to tow it. The boat required expensive insurance, yearly maintenance, and winter storage fees. Elena calculated the full ecosystem cost before buying anything. She knew that a $5,000 toy might actually represent a $15,000 financial commitment over 5 years. Rule number 8, the enough finish line. This was Elena's absolute superpower. She had clearly defined the word enough before she even started her career. She decided exactly what kind of home, car, and wardrobe was sufficient to bring her deep satisfaction. And as her salary grew, she violently refused to move the goalpost. Because Julian never defined what enough meant, he fell victim to the hedonic treadmill. His expectations expanded exactly alongside his raises. No matter how much he made, he always needed a little bit more, leaving him perpetually stressed, despite a top 5% income. Rule number 9, wealth as optionality. For Julian, wealth was about what he had. For Elena, wealth was about what she could do. Elena measured her true wealth by optionality. Optionality is the ultimate financial flex. It is the ability to walk away from a toxic boss without panic. It's the ability to take 6 months off to care for a sick family member. It is the freedom to start a business without needing a guaranteed paycheck on day one. Because Julian was chained to his massive overhead expenses, his optionality was absolute zero. He was a highly paid slave. Rule number 10, cyclical maintenance. Instead of a massive, stressful yearly purge of her belongings, Elena performed small, regular reviews. Every week, she glanced at incoming items. Every month, she evaluated one category of her life, like her closet or her digital subscriptions. This prevented the gradual, silent reaccumulation of junk that traps most people. It wasn't about willpower, it was about maintaining a clean financial system. As the years passed, the economy shifted. A sudden, brutal economic downturn hit the architecture industry. Projects were canceled. firms began massive layoffs. Julian was paralyzed. He was trapped in a destructive cycle. His intense insecurity about losing his job drove him to spend even more money on luxury items for temporary, fleeting stress relief, which only deepened his financial fragility. When his firm announced pay cuts, Julian's entire world began to collapse. He couldn't afford his life. Elena, however, was riding the virtuous cycle. Her years of intentional, reduced spending had led to a massive wall of savings. That cash reserve created deep psychological security. Because she felt secure, she had no emotional urge to retail therapy or spend money to soothe her anxiety, which accelerated her savings even further. When the firm announced pay cuts, Elena simply smiled, nodded, and went home to read a book. Her lifestyle wasn't threatened in the slightest. In the end, Elena didn't need stuff to feel successful. Her bank account and her freedom told the only story she needed to hear. She had learned the ultimate rule of personal finance. You can either own your possessions, or your possessions will eventually own you. Julian finally understood that while he had the much higher income, Elena was the one who was truly wealthy. She didn't have a museum of success. She had less stuff and infinitely more life. If you want to stop the cycle of lifestyle inflation and build a life of absolute optionality, hit that subscribe button. We are building a community of people who refuse to fall for the high-income trap. Drop a comment below and let me know, what is one expensive item you bought that you now realize was just a shadow cost stealing your peace? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.